Hello. Today I want to go through my process of putting HI-TEK coating on bullets. I'm going to try to do this in one video. It may have to be broken up into two. We'll see as we go along. I want to start by just outlining the entire process and then start showing you the individual steps. So for starters, this is mostly everything we need right here. You'll see we got a wire basket, some measuring spoons, our powder, something to mix the powder and our solvent in, a bucket for mixing the bullets, our bullets. In this case, we're doing this 124 grain bullet that I use in 9mm and 357. We have our instructions from the manufacturer, which I highly recommend that you do read. Behind me, there's a fan that we'll use in the drying and cooling phases. There's the toaster oven, and I'm doing this in a well-ventilated area, basically my garage with the doors open. There's a couple steps that I did off camera in preparing for this video, and one is just these bullets have been soaking in acetone for several hours just to get any oils off, get a better coating. I do the same thing when I powder coat, so it's not like it's an extra step or anything. The other part is mixing of the solution. They tell you to do this ahead of time, 45 minutes or at least. I usually, if I'm out, I'll let it sit overnight. But I usually make a big batch and it just stays on my shelf mixed. When we go to shake this up later, you'll hear that there's some bullets in there kind of acting around like a paint can would have, just to agitate it before we put it on the bullets. So to make this solution, it's 20 grams of this powder. It's just a very fine powder. I don't know how well that comes out, but it's real fine. So measure out 20 grams of that and 100 milliliters of acetone. Now, depending on your climate, you can use MEC as a replacement, or 75% acetone and 25% denatured alcohol. If you live in a really dry environment and the acetone evaporates too fast, those other two solutions may work better. Here in the East Coast, it's humid basically all year round, and acetone's just fine for it's worked just fine for me. But when we get to this step here, you have a very short period of time to mix the bullets with your mixture here, and before you dump them out. And if you're in an environment where it's evaporating too fast, you may not get the total coverage on all the bullets that you're looking for. So, like I said, here acetone works just fine. I haven't tried any of the other solutions just because I haven't needed to. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just dump these bullets into our pail. Now, the ratio that I'm working with today is going to be 5 pounds of bullets, and we're going to use a half a teaspoon of the solution here. Now, in this size pail, I have done as much as 10 pounds and just used a full teaspoon. That's worked. A lot of times what I'll do is this basket here will easily hold up to 15 pounds. So a lot of times I'll break up my bullets into 5-pound batches, coat them, spread them out, and I'll get 3 buckets, in this one basket. So I'll do like just one baking process in the toaster oven, but every time and each step through, when I go to do the coating, I'll, separate them out into 5-pound batches. Now, the ratio of 5 pounds to half teaspoon works pretty good for me. I don't have a massive range of bullet sizes. If you've got those, 310 grain bullets and you're also doing 55 grain bullets, well, a 5 pound, 5 pounds of those different types of bullets are going to have a different surface space. Most of my bullets are in the 100 to 170 grain range. As a matter of fact, just about all of them fall into that range. So, this particular mixture works fine for me. Okay, you probably also want to get a pair of gloves for the next step as well, because you know it can get a little messy. So what we're going to do now is we've got our bullets here. We're going to take our mixture. We're going to shake it up real well, and then we're going to use our measuring spoon, drop them in, and swirl them, agitate it. So this is the part that takes, I guess, a little practice to get right, from my experience. You want to mix them, but you don't want to over mix them. It's going to be rather fast, literally 15 to 20 seconds at most. You know, as the acetone dries, there's a couple little keys here that you can look for. One is visually, you'll see the bullets tend to start to clump together. You'll also audibly hear it. You know, it won't sound like a bunch of bullets being swirled around. It'll start to sound like, you know, one clump of metal being, you know, moving around. And also, if you're actually doing the process, you know, you'll physically feel it. It'll feel different as they start, you know, swirling together as opposed to individually. So as soon as that happens, as soon as that starts, you want to stop and just dump them out and get them, you know, start the drying process. So, you know, that's the sign that, you know, you reached it, and, you know, dump them right away. You really want a thin coat. You know, don't be discouraged when you're done if it doesn't look like that first coat is very thick. You know, this is a multi-coat process. You know, I would say at minimum of 2 coats. I typically prefer 3, but I generally size my bullets after 2. So you can certainly stop at 2. But you know, I think they would just basically look better. I'm sure they shoot just fine after 2, but I think they look better after 3. So I put a 3rd coat on. If it's a bullet that I'm only using in one gun and only sizing to one size, then sometimes I won't even bother sizing until after I get all 3 coats on. Okay, so as I said before, I got some BBs in here, or actually bullets in here, to help mix this up. You want to get this shaken up real well. And it will separate fast, so you don't want to let it, when you're done shaking, you want to be ready to go and not like let it sit and let the particles start to settle again. So the other thing you want to be careful about is when you're shaking this up like this, it will generate some pressure in here, and depending on the size of your container here, when you pop this lid, you know, you can get some spray that flies out. So as you can see, I've got stuff on these gloves from previous you know, processes. Okay, so we got this, and here we go. We're gonna go ahead, get that in there, and start our mixing. And right about now, you can feel it starting to stick together, so we dump them out. Didn't mean to shake the camera there, but so now if we were doing multiples, like I said, I've done this in the past where, you know, I've done up to like 15 pounds in here, so I would just move all these down to one side, and, you know, dump the next bucket over here. But in this case, we're only going to be doing these 5 pounds, so I'm going to go ahead and move these over to my drying and cooling station. Okay, this is what I use for my drying and cooling station. Basically, I've got a portable fan hanging off some wall control, and this little portable bench down here. And I'll put the bullets under there, you know, spread them out. Basically, it should take, well, it takes me about 10 minutes. These things should be absolutely completely dry. You can take longer, you know, you're really in a humid environment, but I find with just the acetone, 10 minutes is usually enough when they're directly under a fan. I got the bullets in here. I let this heat up to 400. Obviously it's dropping a little bit now that the door's open. But we're going to go ahead and let this cook for about 10 minutes. Now I will watch the temperature closely, and if I see that this is getting up over 400, I'll make an adjustment, or open up the door a little bit, let some of the heat out. But I really don't want to let this get over 400 degrees. I've had issues in the past when I first started this process with getting them overcooked. I think that's like my biggest fear. So I try to let it get between 375 and 400 and leave it there for 10 minutes. Okay, so these have been in there for 10 minutes now. As you can see, it's right at 400. So I'm going to pull these out and move them over to the drying / cooling station under the fan so that they can cool down and get ready for the second coat. Okay, I stepped outside to get some natural sunlight so you can kind of get a better look at what this looks like after just one coat. So as you can tell, it's not a complete coat. This is obviously a multi-coat process. So it's supposed to look kind of thin, bare in spots, and these will look much better after the second and third coats that we do. Okay, I'm going to run them through the 358 sizer. This is what they look like after 2 coats. They go right through. I mean, very slippery, good slick coating, no effort at all. Resize them. So I'm going to go through the rest of these off camera, and then I'll end up putting a third coat on them and come back and we'll compare what they look like through each stage of the process and the final bullet. Okay, I've completed all 3 coats. So over here you got your uncoated, your 1 coat, 2 coat, 2 coat and sized. This is basically the finished product. This would be after 3 coats. And this is the smash test over here. So as you can see, it's a little thin in areas, but that's solid coat. There's no flaking, so it's a good sound coating. If we take, let's see, if we take these 3, so you got your first coat, your second coat, and third coat, and you can kind of see the difference. You can see that third coat is a little darker. So I mean, it's perfectly fine after 2 coats to shoot. That third coat is really just up to you. I kind of like it, so that's why I do it. And as you can see, just to show you how much thickness, if any, is added here. These were sized through my 358 sizer. So you can see that's right at 358. And then after adding that additional coat, you're pretty much still right at 358, sometimes 3585. But it doesn't really add that much. It's a pretty thin coat. Anyway, that completes my first video on HI-TEK coating. I hope you guys found it informative, and until next time.